So I've been using the Oneplus Nord for a few days now, going from a typical mid-range phone to this premium mid-ranger, and a lot of people who fancy buying this phone are those who actually are already using a mid-range or a budget Android phone. So I'll talk about those small subtle upgrades and things that you may appreciate going from a mid-range Android phone to this OnePlus Nord. Also, I'll talk about some of the caveats or downgrades of sorts at the end of the video. So if you are new to the channel, subscribe guys, and also like this video. Let's begin. First up, I don't want to include 5G in this list because I cannot really experience it right now, and also it seems to have a limited band support for the 5G, and in the future you might see cheaper 5G phones with better 5G support. So let's leave it at that. Now moving on, if you look at the current market, you find a lot of AMOLED displays even around 10-12,000 rupees like the Galaxy M series ones, and also you find 90Hz or 120Hz higher refresh rate phones like the Poco X2, Realme 6 in the budget range, but you cannot find a phone with these two features together. The combo of 90Hz refresh rate and the AMOLED display is probably one of the main reasons for this to be a huge hit in the market. So this definitely translates into a better experience if you are coming from a mid-ranger. It feels butter smooth and the AMOLED display looks stunning for media consumption. However, I feel the high refresh rate is just a half-baked feature in these mid-range phones, and the display is a little bit warmer to my liking despite tweaking all the settings, and a lot of people have these weird display issues which I'll probably talk about in the upcoming video, so stay tuned to the channel. But in short, it didn't affect my day-to-day user experience. The next one is more obvious: the screen to body ratio, the overall design and the aesthetics. The bottom chin looks really thin when compared to almost any budget Android phone. It's not quite the flagship thin like the iPhones or the OnePlus 8 series, but it definitely makes the phone feel a bit more premium. There are a lot of people who are very particular about the chin and the bezels, so this needs to be said, and the beautiful color, the glass back, the ergonomics kind of remind you that you don't have a typical budget phone anymore. But honestly, the plastic frame doesn't feel premium, and most people should notice this, but I use a case, so it didn't matter to me that much. The next one is about the music experience. Now let's talk about the positive side first, the Bluetooth experience. On most phones that I have used, the equalizers work only with the wired earphones, not the Bluetooth earphones. But on this phone, I find this to be working really good. I particularly did not like the direct tuner presets like the dynamic or the music. I mean, they sound very artificial and over processed, so I turned it off. But you have the option of the equalizer where you can actually choose the presets, and also you can customize it, and it works really well guys. So this is something that I did not really find in most of the budget phones that I've used. For example, the Realme actually also has this feature, something like Realme Sound, but it does not seem to work well with the Bluetooth earphones. And mind you, these are not OnePlus Buds, these are just normal budget Bluetooth earphones. Another major thing is the software experience. It is an escape from the cluttered, heavily skinned, bloated, ad-based softwares that we find in the budget category to something cleaner, simpler and enjoyable. OxygenOS is like your favorite custom ROM installed out of the box. I mean, it not only feels near stock Android but offers a few customizations like changing icon packs and a lot of other day-to-day useful features that you don't find in the stock Android. But it's not perfect. I'll probably talk about this in a dedicated video. The next one is a very minor thing, the vibration motor. I normally turn off this feature in budget phones, but I started using this on the OnePlus Nord, and it is kind of slightly subtle and smoother, I would say, compared to your normal budget Android phones. So I kind of like this, but it's not really like that flagship level experience, or it doesn't really transform your user experience to a whole new level, but I find this to be a little small improvement. Now I don't see the cameras as a big upgrade coming from a mid-range phone, but one thing that stands out in this is the OIS that you don't normally find on the budget phones. And when I tried shooting a 4K 30 FPS, and you can see the stabilization was decently good, and this should also improve the low light photography if it is optimized well. When I tried shooting a 4K video on my previous phone, it wasn't stabilized at all and it wasn't usable, but here it seems to do well with the OS support. Now finally, let's talk about the brand value. Now this is debatable, but OnePlus over the years have built a really good brand image among millennials, and it's been among the likes of iPhones or the Samsungs. I mean, there are people who are confused between, say, iPhone XR versus OnePlus 7, etc. Look, it may not turn into a material experience, but it is going to be nevertheless one of the selling points. Now let's get to some of the negatives. Did you notice I did not talk about the performance upgrades because it didn't feel like so. I mean, I did not find any performance boosts as such coming from my previous mid-range phone. In fact, currently it does not support the PUBG smooth extreme settings, which even my previous phone did. So it's more like a downgrade for me, at least currently, or at least not a huge upgrade I would say in terms of performance. But for day-to-day tasks, it does pretty well. Literally another downgrade is the lack of headphone jack. I mean, almost every budget phone has a headphone jack, but this one doesn't. So it's actually a downgrade, and especially for gaming, this is a bit of hindrance. When you attach a USB adapter, it kind of gets in the way when you are gaming, and it is actually irritating to a lot of gamers. And there is also that latency issue with the Bluetooth earphones, unless you own a OnePlus Bluetooth earphones and activate the Fanatic mode. And finally, the build quality. I mean, for this price you expect a metallic phone, but you are getting only a plastic frame around it, and it kind of shows when you hold it naked. But I definitely love the compactness and the ergonomics of the phone. Now, I didn't talk about all the nitty-gritties of a typical review like the battery life or the cameras, but I'll share that experience in the coming days. So stay tuned to the channel and also like this video, subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you soon.